What's up, beautiful people? I welcome you to this channel. It's called Blazing Spells, and today we got some Pauper gameplay right here. It's the February tournament in my local LGS, and I'm starting off this game against Izzet Terror. Myself, I'm playing Izzet Faeries right here, so opponent and myself are drawing our first hand right there. And here we go. Opponent plays snow-covered island for turn into a ponder. So he looks at the top 3 cards, doesn't seem to like what he's got there. First reaction was to put them back and shuffle that, and yeah, that's what he's doing right there. So Martin, that's my opponent's name, gives his deck a good old shuffle, and yeah, cutting it there. And I hope he doesn't like what he gets on top, right? No? Okay. Passes the turn, I draw my card. And play a snow cover island myself into a fairy miscreant. Okay, let's go. Pass the turn, opponent draws a card and plays a preordain. Okay, so scry 2. And then he will draw a card. Both on bottom, okay, not bad for me. And one more snow cover island for turn, pass the turn. Untap, draw. Play a snow covered island myself and swing in for that 1 damage. Opponent doesn't block, so I ninjutsu. It's 2 damage. It's the ninja of the deep hours, and I get to draw a card. I pass my turn here. Opponent draws for turn. Plays a volatile fjord and passes the turn. So after draw, considering my options here for a moment, and deciding to swing in with the ninja. 2 damage, 1 more card draw. Then I'm playing another snow covered island for turn. Tapping that one for my fairy miscreant. And yeah, pass turn. So Martin untaps. Taps an island and cycles Lorien Revealed. It's an island cycling, so he gets himself another volatile fjord right there. Not much I can do about it. Gives his deck a good shuffle, and I'll cut that one. Okay, so he plays it for turn. And passes turn. I decide to island cycle myself with Lorien Revealed, and with that one he plays a Galvanic Discharge on my ninja. I just have 1 blue mana up, and yeah, this means it goes into the graveyard. I'm searching for my island right there. Finding a volatile fjord myself, and yeah, giving my deck a good old shuffle. Okay, opponent cuts. I'll take the volatile fjord into my hand, untap everything and draw for turn. Let's see what I can do from this spot on. I tap 1 blue mana, play another Fairy Miscreant, so Fairy Miscreant triggers, I get to draw a card. And I go for the attack step, swing in with 1 of the fairies. No ninjutsu here, sadly so. I'm playing a volatile fjord, counting my hand real quick, and yeah, good to go. Opponent untaps. and puts on his thinking cap. Opponent taps 2 mana and plays Cast into the Fire on both of my Fairy Miscreants. That's pretty unfortunate there, so I myself have some thinking to do. Do I want to save those? If so, by which means? I decide to tap 2 mana and cast a good old snap on one of my fairies. Opponent spell pierces this move, so wasted snap and 2 dead fairies in my graveyard. Okay, I untap, draw a card there. And tap 1 blue mana for another Fairy Miscreant. And have to pass my turn there. So opponent untaps, draws. And casts Tolarian Terror. 5/5 War 2 costs 1 less for each instant or sorcery card in his graveyard. So I have to counterspell that one. Opponent wants to scred my fairies and succeeds in doing so. Okay. Passes the turn, I untap, draw. What do we have here? Let's see about that. Tap 2 blue mana for ninja, hardcast, no ninjutsuing here. Sadly so. And I pass the turn. Opponent plays another snow-covered island, and for 4 mana, the good old Mystique Murmuring one passes turn. I do untap, draw. It seems like I got a scred, but I just have 4 snow-covered permanents, so opponent blocks with Murmuring Mystique. I'll have to give my ninja for that, but I have the option to play a lightning bolt on his Murmuring Mystique to get rid of it. Opponent ponders upon this one, and yeah, it happens. I pass the turn. Opponent draws. And passes the turn back to me. So let's see about that. I'll draw and pass back as well. So opponent draws and passes back as well. Oh yeah, that's a classic blue versus blue game right there. Draw, pass. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here for quite a while. Drawing and passing. So I decide to bolt his face, so I don't have to discard to hand size. Okay, I pass the turn here. Opponent untaps, plays one of those cycle fetch lands from Modern Horizons 3 and gets himself another tapped snow-covered island. Passes turn, so I do draw. Cutting his deck here. And bolt his face again. He's down to 9. I have to pass the turn with 7 cards in hand. Opponent plays a brainstorm. I let it resolve, so he draws 3 cards and puts 2 back on top of his library. So 2 on top it is. Another snow-covered island into play. Tap for 1 mana and cast another Tolarian Terror. Alright. I'm facing quite a threat here because I don't have no counter spells for this, and opponent passes turn. Tap 1 red mana again for 1 more lightning bolt into my opponent's face, and passing turn here. So the dilemma is I got a bunch full of Screts in my hand, but no 5th snow-covered permanent. Opponent plays Lorien Revealed to draw 3 cards, which I can do nothing against. But trying to spell piercing the Lorien Revealed. Opponent has 2 open mana. Still, he lets it resolve. Right. Spell is countered, and he plays another land and passes turn. Okay. Untap, draw a card. Tap 2 and cast another ninja. Moon Circuit Hacker. Entering the battlefield, maybe? Yes, and instantly gets scredded by Martin. Tough one. I'll attempt to snap it back into my hand, which gets spell pierced on my opponent's side. Okay, no more mana open, no shenanigans. I'll have to pass the turn. Opponent untaps, draws a card, and swings in for 5. Okay, untap, draw a card. It's the second time the Serpent connected, so I'm down to 10. Tap 3 mana and hard cast of 1 Mind to draw 2 cards. Still no 5th snow-covered permanent, so I have to pass the turn. Opponent swings in for 5 and passes the turn. I do untap, draw a card. Still no snow-covered permanent. And yeah, looks tough. Pass to my opponent. He swings in for 5 instantly. I flash and spell status Pride, which get discharged right away. I'll try to spell pierce it. Opponent just counter spells it. It's not even going to pay 2 mana, and yeah, it's GG. Next round. Okay, I go first this time. So let's see what the starting 7 will look like. See a bunch of lands. So yeah, pretty unlucky there. Couldn't get the 5th snow-covered permanent on board to get rid of the snakes. Had a bunch of lightning bolts, which got my opponent down pretty far down, but still not far enough. Alright, so I have to mulligan down to 6. Okay, opponent cuts. And I'll draw a fresh hand. Let's see about that one. Okay, 1 on bottom, 6 in hand. This looks pretty keepable. And I'll play Snow-Covered Island into Faeries here, so I may scry 2 cards. Opponent pretty stoked to see my edged foil treatment there. Having a talk about spending way too much money on on Pauper cards. Alright. Opponent fetches. Snow-Covered Mountain tapped into place announced. And yeah, pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw. Snow-Covered Mountain into play on my side. And swing in for that one, no blockers, so I get to Moon Circuit Hacker, draw 1 card and pass the turn. Opponents down to 18. Tap and scratch my Moon Circuit Hacker after playing a volatile Fjord. Passing turn here. No looting for me, it seems. I tap 1 blue and cast my Faeries here once again. Top. I play a tapped volatile Fjord myself and pass the turn. Okay, Snow-Covered Island comes into play, taps for 1 mana, ponder. And sure, it resolves. Look at the top 3. Decide whether you like what you see. Otherwise, have a good shuffle. Nope, my opponent likes what he sees, puts it down in the order he chooses, and then draws a card. 1 red mana to discharge my good old Faeries here. Sad stuff. 2 more energy in the pool for my opponent. I untap, draw, and play a Snow-Covered Island. Tap for blue, and it's a Fairy Miscreant. Pass the turn. Another Snow-Covered Island for my opponent. Taps 1 red and scratches or attempts to scratch my Fairy Miscreant. I'll have to attempt to snap it back on my hand, which is answered by a counter spell from my opponent. Having a quick count of his instants and sorceries right there in his graveyard. or potentially in his graveyard. And I'll try to Pyroblast the counter spell so I can snap my Fairy back, untap those two lands, the Volatile Fjord and an island, and opponent passes back to me. Okay, untap, upkeep, draw. Playing the Fairy Miscreant and passing the turn to my opponent. He draws a fresh card, plays one more island, a snow-covered one, and for 2 mana attempts to cast the Tolarian Terror. Which is, well, going to be resolved. Opponent passes back to me. I play my 5th snow-covered permanent, so I can potentially scratch his creature, but I'll try to draw 3 cards out of my Lorien Revealed. Opponent lets it resolve, and I'll pass the turn. Draw, and opponent draws as well 3 cards. Not bad, and swings in for 5. Opponent passes. I'll draw a card. It's a snow-covered island once again. Not the kind of stuff I wanna see right now. Opponent announces no block, so my ninja comes into play, draws me another card. I'm playing a snow-covered island there and Pyroblasting the Tolarian Terror by paying 2 for the ward cost. Okay, giving it back to my opponent, and he announces to me he got the best draw out of his Lorien Revealed ever, because it's 3 fresh terrors from the top. That's tough to swallow. And he plays a Scrat on my ninja, which is going to be answered by a Hydroblast, which is going to be answered by a Pyroblast. Good counterspell war there, but I lose. Pretty open here, playing another land. Pretty flooded out at this moment. Attempting to cast another Fairy, which is going to resolve. And then I'm going to cast a ninja for blockers. Otherwise, I'm pretty dead on board. One more card in hand. Opponent plays snow-covered island and swings in for 15. I'm blocking one of the terrors, going down to 5. And opponent casts a Murmuring Mystique. Okay, let's see what the top deck has to offer. GG's.